So the next story, I'm sitting with Chesky Melamed, and one of his guests was a regular frum guy, got a classical Jewish education with nothing else, and he wasn't sure, is Judaism a religion or is it a race, right? So the question of shiksa came up, because my wife is born in Japan, and my family, as a unit, we're not halachically observant. We could do Hanukkah, we could do Purim, we could do Halloween. We don't, we're secular by nature. We're not. We don't have any other religion. We're not. In Japan, the people are secular, but my model is secular Judaism. It's not secular because I figured that the Japanese figured it out. They have two different religions, and they don't worship, but they serve. They get served by both. One is good for babies being born, you bring them to the temple, and the other, Buddhism. There's Shinto and Buddhism, and the Buddhism is good for death ceremonies. That they do the cremation, and they do the whole bunch of priests, and they charge a lot of money, but religion, they say, makes a good funeral. So we're discussing the issue of, after the war, it was a new debate of they're losing people. Religion was losing people, so that was the issue. So it turned into all these panics. So if you marry a Jewish girl from Tel Aviv and you're not halachically observant, so no one's going to ask you, do you keep Taras HaMishpacha, because they've been trained in the yeshiva, especially in Chabad. We learned off the books. We learned a lot of unwritten rules, a lot of tolerance to secular Judaism, with some kind of like hope in the back of our head that never made sense, that people are eventually going to know better and do better, and it means they're going to somehow become indoctrinated. It never happens. A few weak people become religious, and that their journey is still going on. And some people do it out of mystery, out of the feeling, they want to cherish a heritage, but they get lost in it. They don't know what it means to cherish, and what means a heritage, and what is a Jewish heritage, and what is feeling guilty for your ancestors. So that happens. But what and that's always an interesting journey, and you can always ask Baal Tshuvas about it. Always ask them, what do you think and feel? What were you looking for in Judaism? Did you find it? Do you regret it? And you're safe by me. Always let them know that they're safe by you, because you're not only not going to judge them, you're going to value their honesty, and you're really going to value it. Some people say they want you to be honest, but then they're angry at you, and you're like, but I thought you told me to be honest, and then it's very frustrating. So if you can get somebody to be honest with you, you have something going for you, because that's why life would be more geschmack that way. And that's how I did it. When I was starting to think, I was out here in California and still had the indoctrination in my head, I started asking people in Chabad things that I read about, what does it mean to be secular, and what does it mean to be Jewish and secular? There's secular Christians, and the whole concept of natural religion from what the Alter Rebbe was speaking about, which we'll explain in another video about the Alter Rebbe and the Enlightenment philosophers. He knew about them, and he speaks about them, and he is, and we'll get to that. So now we're sitting in the sukkah, the Shmini Atzeres, we're enjoying ourselves, and the Chesky's relative guest says, he gives the whole mishgas about shiksa, but he doesn't know, is Judaism a faith, or is it a nation, or a tribe, or whatever you want to call it? But is it because you were born in Judania, or because you were born to a Jewish mother, or because you believe in the 13 principles, as the Rambam would say, in the Chelek Belekes, in the nation of Israel, you don't have a Chelek if you don't believe in it, So the shaila is not if you're married to someone who was born in Mexico, or born in Texas, or born in Australia, Aborigines, or some other tribe, or born in Japan or China. The shaila is, are you shomer Torah mitzvahs? Because if somebody finds out that they're not, according to Halakha, or the classical poskim, what people know about, and what people think when you walk into a yeshiva, a yid, you're kind of your mother's mother's mother. So if someone finds out that they have a shaila in their yichus, what do? You do a gir l'chumra. You go to a mikveh, you do what you got to do. So this question is, are you halachically observant? Do you keep to some degree? And the issue of what race you're from is not really a question, because nobody knows what's the original Jewish race. The Israelites don't exist anymore, but even if you want to argue that the Hebrews and the Israelites and some other tribe is supposed to be the one tribe that God chose and everybody else could add themselves on, then what's that color, what's that tribe, what's that DNA? So Chesky's guest is hawking about, he didn't know how to learn, but he cared. It's interesting, because Chesky had one guest that cared, knew how to learn, and therefore the conclusion was that the secular side wins. Always logic wins irrational blind faith. But now Chesky doesn't care. He's a chiller. He's not a fanatic. And so he doesn't need to learn, because he doesn't need the argument. He doesn't need it. He looks around and everybody's happy anyway. The Freie guy comes to Chabad once a year, twice a year. The Gvir, the Das, the poor guy comes. He doesn't believe. He does. No one checks under your pants. Lo botkim batzitziot. They don't check your tzitzis, as they say in Hebrew. And that's what the religion really is, and that's why it survives the test of time, because it's a friendly religion. So the dude was hawking about giving up your wife and giving up your family, and the classic stuff that you could hear. It's you don't hear it a lot in Lubavitch, because Lubavitch is more of a modern type of Chassidus. But you do hear it in the Torah Welt. And its only problem is that when we translate the Ten Commandments and we give it out to people, and we tell people that one of the commandments is honor marriage, which is a very bad translation of the original Leisinov. Leisinov means that the woman has no right to sleep around. The man could do what he wants. There's no saita. Even in the Talmudic times, the rabbis never discussed if a woman could accuse her husband. It's adultery in the Bible is a crime against the husband. It's not a crime against the wife. The only time a man gets killed is if he took someone else's wife. Anoyef vanayefes. So when Visual Torah translates, when Menachem ben Shimon translates the Ten Commandments, he writes honor marriage. So the shaila is, what happened to this dude that doesn't know how to learn? Where's his honor to marriage? You do honor marriage, or you don't honor marriage. Advising someone to abandon his wife because she happened to be born outside of Judania, and the Jewish God always has digs on the Canaanites. V'haknani az ba'aretz. Another dig on the Canaanites by the Hebrew God. So that's the shaila. What is it? Is it a tribal religion? Is it a local God? Or is it the God that the Alter Rebbe says that's meluvish in Teva, and he's really all over the world? So that's another nice story. And here's another good one about the inyan of intermarriage.